Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. Firstly, please silence your phones if you have not done so already, which is a really great idea. Okay, that's done. My name, contrary to the order of service, my name is not Melanie Rose. Melanie couldn't make it today. I am Todd Zagorek. I am married to Melanie Rose, and we have been attending this congregation for the last 12 years. We started coming here when we first moved to this area, and this congregation gave us a connection to the community, and we've just made lots of wonderful friends here. If you are a new participant, this is a terrific group of people. Actually, that's true even if you're an older participant. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been gathering together for 200 years. And as we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. I'm so glad that you're able to join us this morning because you are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or 1,000th Sunday in our midst, in person or online, we are stronger because you are with us. If you are new to our community and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself and where you are connecting from in the chat box as you are comfortable. At the conclusion of today's service, you will have the chance to participate in a breakout group for individual connections and deeper check-ins. If you are new and here in person, please fill out a visitor card at the table near the exit before you leave today. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today, we welcome Reverend Kimberly Debus as our guest speaker. Reverend Kimberly is a community minister based in Tacoma Park, Maryland. Inspiring an artful and art-filled faith, she consults with congregations and religious professionals throughout the denomination. She is joyfully affiliated with the Unitarian Church of Lincoln, Nebraska, and has previously served at the Church of the Larger Fellowship, as well as congregations on Long Island and Key West. Again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, and happy Mother's Day. If you haven't called your mother yet, you might want to turn your phone back on and do that. Please join us now for our hymn of welcome for all that is our life.
I want to begin by acknowledging the awfulness of the news out of the U.S. Supreme Court this week and what it may mean, particularly in those states whose draconian measures have also caused harm and distress for those whose choices have been taken away. I'm not sure I have all the words yet. As Stephen Colbert said Tuesday night on his late show, I'm shocked, and I'm not shocked, and I'm shocked that I'm shocked. But what words I do have are these. Reproductive choice is not a woman's issue. It is everyone's issue. It's an issue for all those who can get pregnant. It is an issue for all those who can cause someone to get pregnant. It is an issue for the poor, the historically marginalized, for immigrants, for the incarcerated, for the young and the old. And while the decision is still in draft form, it portends other possible restrictions to our rights as humans, to those very things we affirm and promote in our principles. Those among us who are men, this is your issue too. The people around you need you to speak out for choice. We need you to talk about your role in safe, healthy, and desired reproduction. We need you to listen to the stories of those around you who are afraid and anxious about their futures. All of us. This is bigger than abortion, bigger than women. This is about all of us, what it means to have autonomy in a free society. This is about the inherent worth and dignity of every person. This is about the democratic process. And this is a moment that is calling us to put our principles into practice for the good of all. So let us breathe for a moment as we center ourselves with these words from Tracy Springbury. We gather on this day, this Mother's Day, the time to welcome all those who love their mothers, who had blessed childhoods, and whose mothers love them and support them through adulthood and celebrate today with joy. Let us also welcome those who have been hurt by their mothers, don't like their mothers, or no longer speak to their mothers and find today painful. Let us welcome those whose mothers have died and today are filled with sadness or guilt or grief. Let us welcome all who are mothers in our hearts. Those who have found mothering fulfilling, those who discovered too late they weren't suited to the task, and those who just muddle through as best they can. Those who have borne the brunt of the pandemic, schooling and caring for children while separated from communities and friends and families, exhausted with few resources. Let us welcome all those for whom the day is painful, those who wanted to be a mother but never could, or those who still try month after month without success, those who have given children for adoption and wonder where they are and how they are, those who were separated from their children or their mothers by distance or estrangement. Let us welcome particularly now those who don't want to, are medically unable to, or do not have the resources to properly bear a child, but find themselves pregnant in locations where they have no choice but to give birth and are thus forced into the sacred, challenging task without resource or desire. Let us welcome us all and bless us all wherever we are, whatever we need in this moment, in this sacred hour, on this beautiful day. Come, let us hold each other in our hearts and worship together.
Please join with me and read aloud the chalice lighting affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its life. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth of love, to help one another and celebrate life. Please now join Reverend Sierra Marie with the children's affirmation.
My batteries have just run out on the microphone. Would you be able to help me, Chris? Thank you so much. Let's say together our children's affirmation, because it is good to be together. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. And until that is ready to go, I think, no, I cannot do that. Wait, right here. Okay. Hang on one sec. I'm going to use the other mic.
Check.
Okay. So any kids in the room, I just want to invite you to get where you can either see the screen or see what I'm doing in front of me. On the screen, you'll see what I'm doing. So that's okay if you can see the screen. I want to invite you to watch carefully just because the materials here, you are welcome to work with later on. I'll show you where we'll put them on the shelf so that you can find them whenever you want to use them. This is the circle of our community. This is the circle of Unitarian Universalist community. That's fine. Thank you. Here is our chalice. It looks like a big cup. I wonder what it could hold. Some people feel that it holds the spirit of love and justice and truth, or maybe that it holds the spirit of love and mystery that some people call God. We put a candle in our chalice because a flame is beautiful and mysterious, and it reminds us of that spirit. I wonder how many people could drink from this cup. These are people of community. This person could be in our community. It can be hard to be in community. Sometimes it can feel a little crowded. Sometimes we might feel a little squashed. Sometimes we do things that hurt other people in community, or somebody else might do something that would hurt us. Sometimes things get broken and they have to be mended. Sometimes we forget to listen and we have to be reminded. I wonder how big this circle could be. We could imagine it even like a horseshoe, like Reverend Kathleen was talking about last week. Not so much a circle. But because it can be hard to be in community, as Unitarian Universalists, we make promises to one another. These we call our principles. They're things that we promise to do to help us be in community. You see, it can get little crowded. We have to make room. One of our promises is our red promise. We promise to respect all people, ourselves and others. We also have our orange promise to offer fair, compassionate treatment to all people. Here's our yellow promise to yearn, to learn about ourselves, each other, and the mystery. This is our green promise to grow by searching for what is true and right in life. Blue, believe in your ideas, share them, act on them, and listen and learn as others share their ideas. Indigo, insist on a fair and peaceful world. Violet, value the earth, our home, and all of its creatures. And black, build the beloved community free from racism and oppression. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 promises. They help us connect with each other and with the mystery. I wonder if a promise is different than a wish. I wonder if you have ever made a promise. I wonder if you've ever broken a promise. I wonder if you've ever had to mend what was broken. Now watch the way I put this away so that the next person can use it. I'll go backwards, or here, I'll go forwards. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and black. And then we have all of our people, the people of community, people who could be in this community. Almost there. Remember, when we're in this room, we have all of the time that we need. Now I put that back in the basket so that it's ready for the next person who wants to use it. I'll put our chalice light back. Whew, we forgot to enjoy the light for a minute. I'm going to turn it on. And if you are over the age of 8 and you want to light an actual candle to put in the chalice at some point, we'll work on that together. And finally, the circle of Unitarian Universalist community. I'm going to fold this up and put it right in between the two things that I have here because they're both glass. So I want to be careful. And I might need to carry this sometimes very carefully with 2 hands. But I'll show you where it goes. If you want to come with me back to the Spirit Play corner, I'll show you where it goes so that you can make it yours while we are singing This Little Light of Mine together.
I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm
I'm just still listening. Hold these joys, graduations and dogs and pride celebrations. Let's just hold those joys. And also the unspoken joys and sorrows that may be in our hearts. And now let's sing hymn number 18, What Wondrous Love.
What wondrous love is this, oh my soul, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this, oh my soul. What wondrous love is this that brings my heart such bliss and takes away the pain of my soul, and takes away the pain of my soul. When I was sinking down, sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down, sinking down. When I was sinking down beneath my heart was brown, friends truly gathered round. Oh my soul, oh my soul. Friends to me gathered round. Oh my soul. True love and true old friends, I will sing, I will sing. True love and true old friends, I will sing. True love and true old friends, through pain and sorrow mend. With thanks unto the end, I will sing, I will sing. With thanks unto the end, I will sing.
Kathleen Fleming writes this. This was my hallway last Wednesday. Broken, sharp, treacherous. This was my hallway. It was my son who did this. Sometimes, often really, things break irreparably, and it takes your breath away, straight away. It took my breath away when my son stormed into the bathroom, frustrated, angry, fed up for his very own, very significant to him reasons. And when he chose to slam the bathroom door, causing the heavy mirror mounted to the front to slip out of the hardware that was holding it in place and crash into the floor, a million broken pieces were left reflecting the afternoon light. I was quiet. I surveyed the damage and took a deep breath. Put the dog outside so he wouldn't cut his feet. Put the cat in the basement for the same reason. I walked into the backyard and felt the hot tears streaming down my face. It's amazing how alone you can feel as a single parent in moments like these. I realized how scared and disappointed I felt. Did this really just happen? Yes, this was real. And as I stood and considered whether or not this was an indication of his developing character, I heard his tears through the window above me, coming from inside the bathroom. His soul hurt. This was not what he expected either. Hello, anger. I don't remember inviting you into my house. Gary, terrified, ashamed, worried, scared. Deep breath, Mama Warrior, deep breath. That small, fragile soul needs you right now. He needs your very best, your biggest compassion and reassurance. More deep breaths. Go now. Go open the front door, tiptoe through the broken glass. Hear him hearing you coming. Watch the bathroom door crack open. See the face you love most in the world, red with worry and wet with tears. His voice is suddenly so small. Mama, I'll never do it again. I am so sorry. More tears, more weeping, such uncertainty on his face. Go, get him. Go now. Scoop him into your lap. Yep, you're crying too. Man, this was big. Hold him tight. Watch how he curls into a ball in your arms so quickly. See how eager he is to be loved by you, to be reassured by you. See how small he is. See how fragile that spirit is. I love you. You are safe. I am right here. The worst is over now. I've got you. I'm here. I love you. Go, Mama. Tell him about anger. Tell him now. Anger is a really powerful feeling. You have a right to your anger. Anger burns hot. It can purify. It can also destroy. He nods. He feels it. He's met anger now. There's a better way to show your big feelings. We'll work on it together tomorrow. I'm here to help you. You are safe. You are never alone in your anger. You are never alone in your fears. I'm here. We're here together. Now we will clean together. And we cleaned up the broken pieces. We swept and we vacuumed. It was quiet work. It was careful work. It was thoughtful work. Sometimes things break. Sometimes we break them. It's not the breaking that matters, the how or the why. What matters is how we choose to respond to the brokenness. Does it kill us? Does it throw us into a downward spiral of blame, punishment? Or does it help us remember how to love deepest? Does it push us toward compassion over the hurdle of rightness and wrongness into loveness? Yes, loveness. Go now. Get that baby of yours. Teach that, show that, live that. It's called loveness. Go now.
It is now time for our congregational offering. If you would please repeat with me the congregational response. My mic is not on again. Thank you very much. Thank you. Please repeat with me the congregational response that you see on the screen. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
After the anger, after the tears, they cleaned up the broken pieces. It was quiet work. It was careful work. It was thoughtful work. When things break, you can't just sweep them under the rug. You can't just ignore them. You can't quickly do the job and hope no one notices, because that's how you get shards stuck in your foot. And anyway, people do notice. And just as Fleming and her son honored the truth of the broken moment and then did the careful, thoughtful work of cleaning up, so must we when things go awry. As the Reverend Douglas Taylor says, the path to reconciliation must travel first through truth. And this path isn't easy, but it may be comforting to know that this path is ancient, a path created when we first became humans millennia ago. Humans are messy, and we are even more messy the more we engage with others, collected as we are in various communities with other messy humans. Something that's also a tale as old as time. But it's the truth of a moment that we must indeed face if we're to make anything better. We have heard this over and over and over again in the writings of the sages, over and over again throughout many cultures, over the millennia. Those who have gone before us have seen the human messiness at its worst and have tried to persuade us to something better. The Greek philosopher Plato noticed that the need to be right was overtaking the need to connect, and he wrote extensively about speaking with one another. That, as Karen Armstrong notes, it needed to be conducted in a kindly, compassionate manner. It would not bring transcendent insight unless questions and answers are exchanged in good faith and without malice. We see a similar thought from Confucius, who understood that we must bring softness and pliability and be willing to yield to one another. The Buddha took this even further, noting that when people begin from a point of egotism, they tend to dig in their heels and leave the messy things messy. Buddha suggested that instead they should reflect that everyone else feels the same, that a person who loves the self should not harm the self of others. In other words, remembering that if I have inherent worth and dignity, so do you, and so does everyone else. And when things are broken, we return to that truth, that we all come together with our own truths and must release the need to be right. It isn't easy. As the Taoists point out, we often identify with our ideas so strongly that we feel personally assaulted if these are criticized or corrected. Thus, we tend to bludgeon each other into seemingly irreparable conflicts, refusing to make space for each other in our minds. Paul of Tarsus, a leader in the early Jesus movement, noted this too. Through his letters to the communities he served around the Mediterranean, many of which still survive, the letters that is, we see that the humans he was in relationship with in these communities 2,000 years ago were just as messy as the humans in our modern communities in the 21st century. And we know that even the healthiest of communities and societies have frustrations, strife, and conflict. As Paul worked with his flock, he noted a lack of loveness, a lack of covenant, a lack of attention, a lack of right relationship, an unwillingness to start with the truth in order to reconcile. So maybe these letters or epistles maybe aren't so much sacred text as they are swift kicks in our collective keisters, because over and over again, Paul is telling them to get their act together and be the people that Jesus modeled for them. Paul doesn't stray far from the wisdom of Confucius, the Buddha, and Plato, and others around the world. He too noted a lack of attention, a lack of softness and pliability, a lack of space in our minds for one another. Paul connects this deficit to the lack of love and compassion. In one of his letters to the Corinthians in modern day Greece, the issues that arose We're very much about the conflicts that arise when care isn't taken to see one another. He talks about how a community will remain in conflict as long as they don't honor the humanity and worth of the other, and that to begin the hard work of reconciliation, they must consider what's missing in their relationships with one another. Which leads to one of the most famous passages out of the Christian scriptures, 1 Corinthians 13, which begins, "If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal." This passage isn't talking about God, isn't talking about theology. It's simply talking about how we love one another, how we make space for all of us to bring all of our gifts and experiences and our needs, and that none is more important than the rest. And to truly be in covenant with one another, we need love. And what a thing love is. Paul tells us that love is patient and kind and doesn't envy. Love isn't proud, it isn't rude, it isn't pushy or resentful. No, he says, love bears all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love is what helps mend the broken things. Paul encourages these people in Corinth and us to act out of love, not frustration, not superiority, not fear, not anger, not exhaustion. Act out of love. And that's pretty hard. Love calls us to love the people we have known and tolerated for months, years, decades, the people we work with and struggle with on committees, the people we celebrate with and mourn with, the people who delight us and annoy us. Love is what helps us navigate the conflicts we so eagerly try to avoid, but which still show up, like the errant broken piece of glass that finds its way into the sole of our foot. And even the healthiest of people don't always get along well all the time, especially when there are decades of history. I remember meeting some longtime members of a congregation I once served. And one afternoon, I was to meet Dorothy, who'd been a member for about 40 years, and then later with Caroline, who'd been a member for about 40 years. Both women had served as president on various committees, taught religious education. They'd done it all. In my conversation with Dorothy, I learned about the decade that she and Caroline hadn't talked to one another because Caroline had dismissed her input. But at some point, they kind of forgot about it. We're talking again. A few hours later, I learned from Caroline about how she and Dorothy hadn't talked for a decade because Dorothy had insisted she knew better and held her ground. But at some point, they forgot about it until an issue many years later arose, something minor about tablecloths, I think. The long, unspoken, unaddressed issues got stuck in their feet, caused a major conflict in the congregation. That is what broken and unresolved looks like. It festers and never really goes away. It would be all too easy to run away from it, to just say everything's fine and not engage in the hard, truth-filled work of covenant and reconciliation. But I know all too well how easy it is to ignore a conflict only to have it become an even bigger issue. Maybe you know it too. And now this isn't to say that molehills can't become mountains even when you approach with good intent. But sometimes things are still broken after an apology because that simple apology doesn't quite hit the right tone or it seems empty. And that's okay. These things often run deep, deeper than we understood. And the glass we broke was just one among many glasses already broken and untended. It doesn't matter if you broke all of it or just some of it or just happened upon the pile of brokenness. You still have to sweep. And if you care, you have to sweep it all, and vacuum too, and mop. So sometimes a response that may seem outsized to you is actually what's needed. This is the work of right relationship. The apology isn't for you, even if it eventually helps you too. The apology must help those who feel wronged. And it's not easy to apologize beyond where we think our fault lies. I've experienced this and found it all too easy to get my back up, to get obstinate, to stomp my feet, to complain and get angry at the person I wronged. But if we have not love, we're nothing. And so I did the careful, thoughtful, loving work to craft the right apology. The apology that the conflict and the person and the community and ultimately I needed to sweep up the many piles of broken glass and best come back into right relationship. And suddenly, well, there is no suddenly about it. The work of reconciliation doesn't suddenly mean everything's okay. This work isn't one and done. But as forgiveness works its way through, we stop being exclusionary or patronizing or phony. We start rebuilding and restoring our relationships. And in that way, we start restoring our relationships to ourselves too, and our spirits, and also to that mystery, which some call God. In the Jewish tradition, the day before Yom Kippur is a day of seeking forgiveness from others, because you can't ask forgiveness of God until you've asked forgiveness of other people. Now, we're still many months away from the days of awe, but it matters all the time. There are so many chips and cracks and missing pieces that we hold, so many slights and microaggressions and attitudes, some we don't even recognize amongst our families, our congregation, our communities, our world. We must make space for seeking forgiveness, offering the loveness our covenants call us to. That's what brokenness teaches us about love and the ways it is made manifest. It's about how we care for one another, how we are honest and thoughtful with one another, how we willingly come back to the table when things go awry. It's about being attentive, supportive, kind, truthful. It's about facing anger and fear and being willing to face it together in the midst of the piles of broken glass. Love helps us do that. We are invited to loveness, to love deepest, to turn those moments of anger and fear and restlessness and frustration into deep compassion. It's not easy, this loveness. Truthful, careful, thoughtful, deep loveness is hard. Yet when we hear the wisdom of the broken things and live love, and we have a willingness to do the quiet, careful, thoughtful work, when we are willing and eager to be subject to one another, then we have a chance at the hard work our faith calls us to, what the Commission on Institutional Change calls us to, what our very humanity calls us to. The work of creating pathways for truth-telling, repair, and restoration is hard and deep, but integral to our work as faithful Unitarian Universalists in this world. This is how we live the values we profess. This is how we widen the circle of concern. This is how we ensure autonomy, rights, protection, welfare, care for all. We do it with love. It is how we become one. Amen, and blessed be.
As we approach the end of our service, it's now time to extinguish the chalice. If you would, please read along with me the words that you find on your screen or in the order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Please join us now for the hymn of celebration number 1031, called Filled with Loving Kindness.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
I leave you with these words from Jan Richardson. Let us agree for now that we will not say the breaking makes us stronger, or that it is better to have this pain than to have done without this love. Let us promise we will not tell ourselves time will heal the wound when every day our waking opens it anew. Perhaps for now it can be enough to simply marvel at the mystery of how a heart so broken can go on beating, as if we were made precisely for this, as if it knows the only cure for love is more of it, as if it sees the heart's sole remedy for breaking is to love still, as if it trusts that its own stubborn and persistent pulse is the rhythm of a blessing we cannot begin to fathom, but will save us nonetheless. Go in love, go in joy, go in peace.